So football family, we got to say what's the elephant in the room, and that's Coach Pat Shurmur. Now, ESPN, Fox Sports, or any of these conglomerates, they're not going to talk about it, but I do. First of all, hit that like button. What's good, family? This is DJ Bless One back at it again. Today, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about Colorado's football coordinator, Pat Shurmur, and why it might be time for him to be demoted or replaced. Because Pat is going bad. We don't like any of the things we're seeing, so I'm going to show you clips and highlights what I mean by. Let me keep it real with y'all. This bubble screen offense Shurmur keeps calling, it's not cutting it. It has failed Colorado as a whole, and that's crazy when you think about the talent we got on this roster. We have the skilled players, the offensive line that can actually make a big push in conference play this year, but with this weak, predictable offense, we're getting laughed at by everybody else, and you can literally see it in this offense. Hang on. I had a phone call. Maybe that was Pat calling me right now to call it out. But let's hit the theme song so we can get these receipts out.
I've been broke so many times, I don't know what to believe. Mama say it's my fault, I wear my heart on my sleeve.
So let's just get into it, man. Look, I'm not a mean guy or nothing like that. I like Pat Shurmur, but when you look at his NFL career, he was a failed coach almost at every level. I just liked him around Deion Sanders because the recruits would come through. Pat is probably a good recruiter because he has NFL cachet, but just because you have NFL cachet doesn't mean you're still that guy who was the hot stuff back then. In high school, you was the man, homie. But in Colorado and Boulder, you're garbage, dude. Much respect to you. You're giving me also Sean Lewis vibes. And I'll get to that later in this video because when he compared, you know what I'm saying, my guy Shedeur to Daniel Jones, it told me everything about Sean Lewis when he got hired at San Diego State, and I had to be the first one to show receipts that the athletic director and president of San Diego State were in business with Sean Lewis while he got demoted at Colorado. Things that make you go, right? But let's get into Pat Shurmur a little bit more before we go down that rabbit hole. Now, Pat Shurmur, he goes out of his way to blame the offensive line. Last week, I blamed the offensive line, right? Almost 2 weeks ago. I didn't like the way they played. I thought they needed more improvement. Jordan Seaton was the highlight of the offensive line. I said Jordan needed to be more vocal towards his other guy. And this week against Delaware, they did much, much better. You can't blame the offensive line when the quarterback's at helm holds the ball too long. They're not looking for their assignments that's open. You can't blame the offensive line when you're hovering around too long and then you get sacked. No, the offensive line did a much improvement, but look who Pat Shurmur blames. Instead of taking accountability and blaming his bubble screens or even being fair, calling out guys like Kaido Salter, and I know you guys keep thinking I'm saying Slaughter. I'm from Florida. I'm not saying Slaughter. I'm saying Salter, like Salter. So calm down. But listen to Pat Shurmur.
I like game planning when you've got three different quarterbacks, 2 drives each, and so on down the line.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting week. You know, as you can imagine, when you lose a game like we did last week, right, you cross a lot of emotional bridges, right? We have a bunch of young players. You know, I said this prior to last week's game. We only had really one returning starter on offense out there playing. You know, we had some role players, but Jordan Seaton was the only guy. So we got a lot of young and a lot of new players in there. And that's the reality of college football, as we know. And so I'm looking at this. We're crossing some bridges to find out who our best guys are still. You know, in the NFL, we had the 3 preseason games, right? This would be preseason game 2. But
third, this isn't the NFL, and you can't call week number 2 preseason number 2. Dude, this is the road to a national championship, at least a conference championship, if all said be all. For you to look at week number 2 against Delaware as preseason in the NFL, bro, why are you a so-called offensive coordinator for a top college team like Colorado? We got Byron Leftwich. You know what I mean? Whether you think he's part of the program or not, he's one phone call away from being the actual offensive coordinator, if we're being for real. Hell, he's supposed to be an NFL coach right now. He's the one who declined to get the head coaching job of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was a smart man for that. Why isn't he at the helms of things? I think we learned last year that Pat Shurmur is not the guy to go with because he went rogue and he went bad already. His plays are predictable. Can we just stop coddling him and keep it a stack? I mean, every time Colorado steps on the field, Pat Shurmur game plans gives lower tier teams a chance. Look what just happened against Delaware this past weekend. That game should have never been close the way it was. It should have been 50-something to 7, if even that. But Schumer's predictable play calling kept them alive. That's unacceptable if we're being serious here about competing at a high level, but this is what we regress to. I'm not done yet. Then Pat Shurmur, he has to understand guys like Shedeur didn't believe in you like that. I'm not trying to speak for Shedeur, but I remembered you are losing your mind, Pat, because where you're blaming the offensive line towards the end of that press conference, you actually ended up giving credit to the offensive line. So you're trying to blame them for a somewhat half and half performance, but towards the end of the press conference, you're also trying to say credit to the offensive line. Which is it, Pat? I didn't hear you calling yourself out. You did not call yourself out at all. Shedeur didn't believe in you. I knew it when you took over for Sean Lewis. This was Shedeur Sanders' reaction to you taking over.
And it's together. So it's not. We use the same concept, same everything. I mean, it's football. Everybody has the same concepts. It's just different way you see it and different way you read it sometimes. But overall, I liked it. So it's either way. It's either way. I ain't really have a preference for everything. I'm just, if that's the decision, just go with it and, execute whoever's calling the plays.
See, so don't give me that Shedeur had this beautiful marriage with Pat Shurmur. If you look at Shedeur's last season, Pat Shurmur damn near sabotaged Shedeur's season. And if you go back a year before that, when we still had Sean Lewis and he got demoted, we actually lost the game that Pat was covering. We lost several games with Pat, if we're being for real. We can't just be groupies of Colorado. We have to be real supporters. And a real supporter gives the real truth about this. Pat Shurmur never was. Let's just be honest about it. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't dislike Pat Shurmur as a person. I actually like the man. But as a play caller, I don't trust him. He gives me those agent vibes, like he's trying to sabotage Coach Prime on purpose. Because how do you explain this? Why is he not putting the same effort into developing Kaido and Juju the way he did with Ryan Staub? Oh, what am I talking about? Well, Ryan Staub seems to get the respect of, Pat Shurmur. See, Pat Shurmur got all the articles saving him. Shout out to Martin Ryan Luther King, who saved the job of Pat Shurmur. If we're being for real, Pat Shurmur is like Shedeur. They don't care who's the play caller. Just give them the ball, give them the play, and they're going to execute the play to rhythm and accomplish the mission. But that credit doesn't go to the play caller. It goes to the quarterback at helm. And Pat Shurmur is not having a pad strapped on him, but he loves Ryan Staub. Notice what he says about Ryan Staub here, and you're going to be baffled because it's like, how come you don't put the same effort in Kaido and Juju? Because he's literally admitting it here. Listen.
Close, and I appreciate, Staub and I have become very close, and I appreciate him because of the way he plays the position. Quarterbacks are very cerebral. He found out just a day ago that he was going to get in the game. So he came into me and told me, I like this, and this, and call this here, bump up. And, he thinks like a quarterback. And I think he's going to be a good example for anybody that plays with him. And so for him to go out and have success, I think we had 45 seconds before at the end of the half. And Coach Prime said, what do you want to do? I said, let's go. Right. And he said, well, Staub's in. I said, well, let's go. So I called his first play to get a completion, and they batted it down. Close, and I appreciate
So at the end of the day, this isn't a love marriage. The media likes to play on these narratives and harp on it with their own created false narrative. Deion Sanders is the one who graced the stage by giving us Ryan Staub. It wasn't Pat Shurmur. You just heard Pat admitted it. It was Deion Sanders who put him in there and said what you want to do with Staub in the play, that is. So don't look at it the other way around. So this guy, Pat Shurmur, is admitting that he's put more time and effort into Ryan. But what about your other guys? So you're giving Ryan the plays that's best comfortable for him. But what about the plays that's best comfortable for Juju? Because when Juju got in there, you gave him more bubble screens. When Juju threw his touchdown, he had to overcompensate for your lack of playmaking. Maybe you guys are trying to redshirt Juju, but even for the glimpse of which you exhibited in front of the fan base and the collective of the national football community, it seemed like you were somewhat sabotaging Juju as well. So no quarterback has to go through a system where he has to say, I have to regress back to high school and listen to what my high school coach taught me, because my college coach, which is Coach Pat Shurmur, he seems to be a lower tier level coach. Now listen to Pat Shurmur on the reasoning on what he did with Caden and the way he actually moved Caden around the field.
Drive leads down to a touchdown.
Yeah.
I know the fourth quarter situation is kind of different, but how did you feel about Caden today?
Yeah, I thought that was huge. I think, and I'm happy. Last year we were always talking about slow starts. This year we didn't win the first game, but we've started fast, and Caden did a good job on that drive. Right, he made some good plays today, and I give those guys credit. To be in the flow and stay in the flow with a 3 quarterback rotation is not easy. I've never been around it in my life unless the guys were getting hurt, so this
Drive leads you down to a touchdown.
Yeah.
I know the fourth quarter situation is kind of different, but how did you feel about Caden today?
Yeah, I thought that was huge. I think, and I'm happy. Last year we were always.
Man, forget this. You should not be an offensive coordinator of any team if trying to name who's the 3 starting quarterbacks, well, out of one of them, and it's difficult for you, then, sir, that position is not made for you. Because this is God awful if we're being for real. Let me go a little bit more honesty why I like Ryan Staub. Let's keep it real. Ryan Staub has almost saved the career of Pat Shurmur's failed style of offense. If it wasn't for Ryan stepping up and making things happen, Shurmur's scheme would have been completely exposed by now. Staub is masking and hiding how outdated and predictable this offense really is. No, I'm gonna keep it honest, bro. I'm not afraid to bite my tongue, bro, and that's what makes me different than many of your favorite YouTuber content creators out there. I mean, much love to them, but we have to keep it honest. Now, listen to this guy compare the situation with trash quarterbacks. That's what Shedeur said after Pat Shurmur just disrespectfully compared Shedeur to Daniel Jones.
I think they're very similar prospects regarding Shedeur and Daniel Jones. From a player and person, I think they're both wonderful human beings. They're both highly accomplished, talented college players that have a chance to make an impact in the NFL. So there's a lot of similarities between Daniel Jones and Shedeur Sanders. Close quote.
There is nothing comparable with Daniel Jones and Shedeur Sanders, and that was disrespectful for your offensive coordinator to say that moments before the draft was starting. This wasn't years ago. Pat Shurmur did this less than 4 to 3 days for Shedeur Sanders to get selected. You don't think that was sabotage? This man works in the NFL community. You don't think he spoke to different people who told him about Shedeur or whatever? If he can publicly say this about Shedeur Sanders openly in front of the world, could you imagine what Pat Shurmur said about Shedeur Sanders behind the scenes? Things that make you say, and think about. But you're going to say I'm doing too much. Oh, you think I'm lying? Shedeur Sanders got word of that, and I like his response. He didn't put a name on it, but you can guess who Shedeur Sanders was talking to when he talked about people comparing him to trash quarterbacks.
Because it's like, I can't really have no player comp because it's like, you can't tell me I'm going to be like this guy. Like, you don't know. People playing God. You can't play like you God. Like, you know what I'm capable of doing and what I'm not. So that's why I don't like the comparison things, because it's some disrespectful comparisons I done seen. And I know I'm nowhere near like that on the field or off the field, so I don't know what they even talking about. But you gotta think their job is entertainment. What real opinion do they really have? That's why I just don't even pay them no mind. It's about entertainment, it's about views, it's about clicks. Why you think my name trending every day?
Ooh, that boy said, why you think my name trending every day? Shout out to Shedeur. prime time, nah, perfect timing. You feel me? Because every time he touched the field or get a limelight of a moment, it's always perfect timing for Shedeur. These one of these long videos I'm giving y'all because it got nothing but receipts. Spare me your feelings, cuz I'm not trying to hear nothing extra with extra saltine feelings. Listen, Colorado fans know the truth. We got the talent, we got the weapons, and we got the coaching staff led by Coach Deion Sanders, who's building something special. But as long as Shurmur is running this vanilla, predictable, bubble screen heavy offense, we're not maximizing what this team could be. For instance, listen to him explain on choosing plays for players if you think I was making that part up.
So this is unique for me too. But I got a decent idea what plays they're good at and what they're going to rock and roll with. And so just try to give them what they're good at. And we lean on the run a little bit. I think we need to mention, I lived in that region, so this is unique for me too.
I'm tired of everything being unique for you, bro. You're so-called professional aficionado, and we're going on week 3, and you can't get the job done yet, but we're expected to play for playoffs this year. If it wasn't for Coach Prime and his intelligence on how to lead a team, we would be losing every game, especially against Delaware. So you owe your position and everything to Coach Deion Sanders. But for some reason, I feel like you're buying time to make your next move, and it won't be with Colorado. Remember, you even diss Caden Salter and you diss Juju Lewis. Listen to the slickness of this coach.
We go along here. We're fighting. We're fighting our butt off to get victories. But we're also trying to develop the players, and we are hard on them in practice, right? We get after them. You have to practice football, and these young people have to practice football. And they don't always like the response they get from a practice, but when the ones that grind through it are going to develop, and that's what these young people need to do. We go along here. We're fighting.
So who was he talking about? You can't say Ryan Staub. He just gloated and talked about all the 3 years he had Ryan and how he loves Ryan and all that. And that's 3 years. So the only 2 young guys would be Caden and Juju, because Kaido is not a young guy by far. This is like supposed to be his 5th year or 4th year, something like that. So we know he's really talking about Juju and Kaido because he gloated about, you know, your boy Ryan. So I'm not trying to make a beef here. I'm just showing you this guy, Pat Shurmur, doesn't know anything that's going on. It's like when Deion Sanders found out the Saints tricked them and drafted Tyler Sow.
Tyler Shuck. New Orleans Saints select Tyler Shuck. Quarterback. Louisville.
Switch it up.
Quarterback. There it is.
Wow.
That's how I feel when I see that vanilla offense ran by Coach Pat Shurmur. It's like, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the facts, and it is what it is. At the end of the day, this isn't about disrespect. This is about accountability. Pat Shurmur either needs to change his approach or he needs to step aside, because Colorado doesn't just want to compete. We want to win. And right now, his play calling is holding us back, man. The reality, and you know how I'm going to say what ESPN won't, hit that like button and drop a like if you think Shurmur should stay or go. And subscribe, because you know I keep it passionate and unfiltered. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm DJ Bless One, the best one. Love your family, love your kids, and stay blessed.